I've done this video plenty of times over and over again, and something has gotten in the way. Today, it's my emotions and my attitude, and I'll be damned if I'll let that get in the way. And I'm not even going to start from the place where I had been starting from in the first place. I'm going to get straight into celibacy and semen retention. Now, as far as that goes as a practice, people can't relate with it because it seems like cope. It seems like bullshit. A lot of people are like, why are you doing that? It just sounds like you're running away from something. It sounds like you're using it to run from something. You know what? They're right. There is a bit of it that's being used to run away from something. When you have that practice, or when you partake in that practice, you usually do it or start it for shallow reasons. You want a girl. You want to get more gains in the gym. Well, that one isn't that bad, to be honest. And you're doing it for some sort of outside validation. There's a lot of people who do it for that. And so the claim that it is a coping mechanism is justified in that regard. Where it stops being a coping mechanism is when you run into the mirror. Now, what is a tower? What is a tower card in tarot? The tower represents uprooting and endings. The tower is a card that tends to get pulled whenever something is going to abruptly change in your life that changes the status quo for you. Your job, you lose your job. Your girlfriend breaks up with you, your boyfriend breaks up with you. Some sort of natural disaster hits. Something unearths your comfort. And when you start to do retention and go down a path of celibacy, that happens. You are encountering a part of yourself, and what you're supposed to do is unearth your previously rooted patterns that you use to cope, including retention. So maybe you chased girls or you got numbers. Maybe you were validating yourself through the bodies you got. Maybe you coped through pornography. Maybe it was a way for you to feel less boredom or feel less pain. It's a coping mechanism. Something hurt you if you are looking for validation through the bodies you got. You don't look at love the same way that you used to. You cope with the fact that you don't have the object of desire that you want, which is the woman that you want. A lot of gooning happens on Instagram. Which means you're looking at people who you would want to be with. If it's not there, then it's on Pornhub and you're engaging with the idea of the woman that you want. You break that idea down into pieces and look them up separately. Oh, this is what I want. This is what I want. I'm going to keep going down the pages until I find what I want. It's all cope. It happens when you're bored. It happens when you're tired. It happens when you're lonely. What does it mean? When you run into that mirror on retention, the thing that you were trying to escape comes up. And you have to face it. I had gotten into some pretty dubious waters when it came to the types of pornography that I got into. All the way down to the transgender porn. It doesn't matter where I started. That's where I ended up. It actually was very shameful, and I judged myself. It became an identity for me after a while, too. Because part of me was not accepting of where I ended up. That became its own vicious cycle. I started to do retention to try to fix the issue within myself instead of accepting that that's what I became attracted to. It's time to move on. If you can't do that, you cannot get far with the practice. The Kundalini rising is a spiritual path in which you allow your energy to rise from the root to your crown. And when you're celibate, you get to a point in which that mirror is in front of you and it shows you all the ugliness that you don't want. It shows you your shadow. Let's be real. There's a lot of negative things that came up in that mirror for me. I thought of myself as a loser, a beta. All of my past experiences with women came up. The kinds of pornography that I got into came up. All of that started to become a reason to get back into it, to get back into pornography. But we're dealing with the rising of energy. If you have ever seen the Avatar and you remember Guru Lakhima when he's talking to Aang and he's like, you need to let the blockages, you need to clear the blockages so that the water could flow. And he lifts up the grass that's in the river that's blocking the water, and the water starts to flow downward. There's like further down blockages, but it's like you release the biggest ones and it gets easier to clear the others. When that happened, it made sense to me in that show. Because when you're dealing with Kundalini rising, you're dealing with the chakras. All 7 of them. And each one represents an aspect of your life. The root is groundedness, feeling safe. There's a lot that plays into that. You have to have good food in your stomach. You have to feel strong enough to protect yourself. And that includes material resources and value in that regard as well. And you need to deal with your fears and your phobias. You need to face them. You need to release the traumas that are in your body because they repeat your fears. The sacral chakra is revolving around creative and procreative energy. What do you create? We make art, music, businesses, babies. We all make that stuff. Everything that's in our society we have made. It starts there. The energy is there. And then we have the solar plexus. That's identity and boundaries. Who are you? What do you stand for? What don't you stand for? Can you stand for it? This is where our power comes from, our ability to fight for what we think is right for ourselves. These are the three animal chakras. Then we have the bridge, the heart. The heart is connectivity. It could be blocked. We can feel disconnected from others. We can feel jealous of others. But when we engage with others, when we can see somebody else, when we could see ourselves in somebody else and have that empathy and compassion, the heart chakra blooms. All of a sudden, there is an expanded realm for what you're doing things for. The heart chakra blooms for family easily, as long as you had a good relationship with them. It blooms for your significant other. It blooms for your children. It blooms for your siblings. It blooms for your aunt, your uncle, your grandmother. But it could bloom for anybody in the world, especially if you can see how you could be in the same position that someone else is in. But if it's cut off, you only think about yourself. And if you're only thinking about yourself, it leaves room for lust, envy, fear. And these are the perversions of the three lower chakras. The fear makes you feel ungrounded. The lust makes you feel depleted and without, if you do not have the vehicle for it. The selfishness and envy comes from not having a sense of self. Past that, the three higher chakras are more spiritual, but they mirror the three animal, the three lower. So on the other side of the solar plexus chakra, you have the throat chakra. You start to speak from that sense of self in order to energetically push your truth out into the universe. It's the vibration of sound. You're able to imagine and envision, which is the spiritual access to your creative potential. But there is also a wisdom aspect to your third eye. You're able to see things play out. You're able to create and connect with the image of what you want. That's your connection to your sacral. The creation aspect leads to envisioning it. And then ultimate groundedness, which is purely physical, gives you the foundation to be able to climb that ladder, Jacob's ladder, all the way up to immense spirituality, which is why you see everyone with a halo. All the gurus, Jesus, they all have halos. When you look at Catholic envisions of saints, they all have halos. Why? Because they're connected and resonate with godhood. That doesn't mean you're God, but being made in the image of God allows you to operate within this world from a sense of immense control. But you have to be tapped into that wisdom. That means you have to get there. That means you have to understand every single chakra from the root to the crown. You have to understand how it plays out in your life, how they play, how yours operate, how your wheels turn. And you have to start from groundedness, because that is the biggest wheel. That's the biggest gear. And you can't start twisting gears from the smallest gear, the highest octave. The highest octave doesn't go through walls. But if you're walking by, let's say, a club or something like that, you're going to hear the bass going through the wall. You need to turn that lower wheel first. And then slowly but surely, all the other wheels start to turn. And when you go through the process of celibacy, when you go through the process, probably not even of celibacy, just of retention, you are going to face that shadow, that wall, the tower, the mirror. You got two options when you face it. You're going to run, and that's just going to lead you to another tower. Or you pick that mirror up and keep it with you because it's valuable to see your reflection. You rebuild from the collapse of that tower and fortify it. You can see the structural flaws in that tower, and you could go like, all right, this is how we rebuild. This is how we keep it pushing. This is who I am. I don't know what scripture it is off the top of my head, but you cannot build a house upon sand. I'll start to go back into my book for the ending of this, because I did say some stuff. What is the reason for even doing anything like this? Because I'm not purely a spiritualist. I believe in balance. You need the spiritual in order to properly engage with the physical, and you need the physical to ground your spirituality. They're two sides of the same coin. The yin and the yang are both within one shape, and that's the circle. So, you're doing it for a reason. Maybe that reason is spiritual, but your ability to talk to others and spread your wisdom is a purpose that affects people. People are physical. People deal with the physical. People are what we're connected to in this earth. Maybe you're doing it to change your life. You have athletes, the biggest one that I can think of is Mike Tyson talking about how retaining made him meaner. But his purpose was to win that fight, and you need to be mean in order to win a fight. Steve Jobs talked about retention when it came to building Apple from the ground up. He had that vision, and he needed every resource possible in order to get it done. When you are retaining, if you have bypassed that mirror, that means you're doing it for a better reason, and that reason is a purpose. Now, I always hate when I hear you gotta find your purpose. The reason why is because that purpose is multifactored. Your purpose can be building and structuring your family. It could be creating and developing your art. It could be creating and developing your business. It could be building yourself. If you were on retention just to better yourself, that is way better than if you were doing it for the outside validation, for getting more women. Because a lot of people talk about the attraction aspect, and that is there, but that is not because of the retention. It's because you're becoming a better person. You're more vibrant. Yeah, there's more energy levels because you're not constantly depleting yourself and having to go through the process of making this extremely energy intensive cell in your body. But there's more to that. You become more of an attractive person by being a better person for yourself. First and foremost, if you're doing anything for other people, then people are going to see through it. It's not going to be grounded. And so there's a difference between when a person goes down this journey with cope and the other one is purpose. See, sex is natural, and that isn't the issue. The symptoms are the issue. When you are doing it for the explicit reason of pleasure, it opens up the avenue of needing it for validation. I'm not saying everyone who does it for pleasure needs validation. There's a lot of people who are just normal. But you really got to look at yourself. Like, is there a reason why I am constantly needing to be with somebody? I see so many YouTube comments under people's shorts or videos where it's there's a couple doing something and it's somebody, it's the string of comments are all suicide jokes. Why is that? Why is that the common sentiment? It's a joke for, I would hope, the vast majority of people, but a lot of people feel that way because they don't have somebody. There's videos where people are looking at a video of somebody, with their significant other, and they start crashing out because that is a reflective sentiment for a lot of people. They need somebody outside of themselves. If you start from that aspect, you got issues. You don't feel good with yourself. I know for certain because that's where I'm coming from. The reason why I'm going to air out my dirty laundry on a video is because I need to and have already gotten to a point which I am okay with myself. Being by myself, being with myself, being with my thoughts and the negativity that comes with it. Not only because it's comfortable to me now, because I've gone through it enough, but also because it's a gift. It's showing me where I am lacking, either in the self-acceptance or in some aspect or area in my life that I can change. Because that is the stoic way to go through this. And I'm not advocating for stoicism, although it is beneficial. There are other philosophies or philosophical ways you can go through life as long as you are grounded. I don't know. That's a kind of a tangent. But what I like stoicism for is the acceptance of what you cannot change and the changing of what you can. This process is a tough one. It's tough because it's easy to fall into cope. It's easy to fall into patterns where you're just going to cover the pain. Our medical system is exactly like that. We're going to address the symptoms instead of the issue. But when you look at other medical systems, they address everything. What are you doing in your life? How do you live? What are you repressing? What are you accepting? All the way down to when you were born, where you were born, all of that comes into a factor. Why? Because all of those things are a factor in your life, and our health reflects how we live it. And so that is the Ophidian aspect. Run into that mirror that shows you your filth and pick that mirror up and look into it every now and then. Don't throw stones at it. That'll give you bad luck. You ever seen those Twitter posts? It's like, gooning will give you bad luck. It's true. It's because you are repeating the cycle of accepting and running away from your issues. After that, you learn about yourself. You learn more about yourself. You accept yourself. You stand on who you are and what you are. And then you move from there. Everything else from there is reflective. You also begin to connect with people from a different spot. The way that sex and lust is having us connect with the opposite gender is destructive. We're not connecting with people. We're looking at what we can get out of them. That's selfish. You already are working from a perverted, lower nature. So, shit, that is the end. I like this green screen. And I'm glad I was able to put this out here. These are very troubling times, and these are also the times where you need to be more connected with yourself. Because if you're not, this was just one aspect of how you can be exploited. You see, if you are not going through some type of journey of purification, then let's say this is your struggle, the struggle of balancing your sexual nature. If this is your struggle and you don't try to change it, you don't try to face whatever it is that you are running away from, then you will forever be exploited by the porn industry that will just have better and better technology to be able to exploit you with. They're going to have more metrics. They're going to have better metrics. You're feeding them the metrics of what you like and don't like. And this isn't like and don't like from a conscious standpoint. This is like and don't like from an animal standpoint. This is Pavlovian. You will be further exploited. This is just one avenue. If you're constantly angry and bitter and jealous and fearful, all of that is useful to people who can turn that into numbers and produce something to tap right into the emotions through an algorithm that's made for you. So that's the end of my video. Thank you.